other print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Fran McNamara, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the May 1st through May 7th, 2026 issue of Buffalo Business First on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Okay, I'm looking at the cover here, and there's a couple standing here, and lady and the gentleman are smiling, and then off to the right there's another gentleman smiling. However, they're separated by what looks like oh my gosh, 1/3 of a pyramid, each one having on lines coming like sunlight, each one having a sign, money, it looks like storage units. And then there's a gentleman with his arms folded looking very satisfactorily on the other side of the page, and it says, "This is Business First, the uncertainty era. Whether they're just getting started or celebrating a century in business, small businesses face tough choices daily." And that's going to be the Spotlight on Small Business, which starts on page 8. So it also mentions that we have another The List. These are the region's largest lenders of SBA loans. Then there's a little blurb for leadership. New Era names new president, and we're going to get to that right away. Leanne Bunny, page 2. And then $190 million project moving forward. After years of planning, construction starts soon at the North Odd Block site. And that's Jacob Tierney on page 4. So let's get to this article on page 2, which is, as always, first things first. And there's a picture here of the New Era beautiful flagship office in downtown Buffalo. And it says Bruce Popko, a familiar name in Buffalo's sports business world, has been named president of New Era Cap. Ex-President Jim Peterson and 2 other executives left company at the same time. So the headline reads, "New President, New COO for New Era Cap." And this article is written by Leanne Bunny. New Era Cap is adding to its leadership team as it comes off its first full year after making a big acquisition. The Buffalo-based global sports and lifestyle retailer has named Bruce Popko, formerly New Era's Senior Vice President of Global Licensing and Business Development, as president, and Lorenz Kahn, previously Chief Digital and Information Officer, has been named Chief Operating Officer. Vice President of Global Quality Dave Heimberg was also named Vice President of Global Supply Chain, and Senior Director of IT Jennifer Lawrence is now Vice President of IT. This news comes after the company announcement in summer 2024 that it was acquiring sports lifestyle brand 47, a move that was expected to generate about $2 billion in annual revenue. And in parentheses it says, Mergers and Acquisitions magazine ranked the merger as one of the 2025 deals of the year. With the new leadership added, some executives are leaving the company as of April 27th, according to a news release. Those exiting leaders include President Jim Patterson, General Manager of North America Steve Agello, and Vice President of Global Supply Chain Josh Kriesman. The release did not give a reason for their departures. Now, New Era CEO Chris Koch said in the release, "The appointments being announced today include a group of leaders at New Era who have clearly proven that they have the experience and skills to operate at the highest level as we look to build on our global market leadership position. With 47 now fully integrated into our global business, I look forward to strategizing with this new team and finding innovative ways to embrace our heritage and deliver for our customers, partners, employees, and investors. Cook stepped down as president in 2022, shortly after a $7 million investment deal was announced, but he remained in the role of CEO. New Era achieved a $2 billion in annual revenue within the last year, according to the release. So, meet the new leaders is the last section of this page 2. Before joining New Era in 2024, Popko spent time as COO and CEO at Major League Pickleball, COO at Chiyoda Capital, COO at Pagula Sports and Entertainment, and Chief Revenue Officer at the Buffalo Bills. At New Era, he has led the company's development of new league and team licenses, including working on the strategic integration with 47. Gann has worked at New Era for about a decade, helping to accelerate early stage growth of the company's e-commerce platform. He was previously IT director at Burberry for nearly 6 years, based on his LinkedIn. Heimberg has been at the company for more than 30 years, including working in manufacturing, customer service, and supply chain management. And finally, Lawrence has worked at the business for nearly a decade. Prior, she worked in IT at Burberry for about 15 years. So as my dear dad would have said, things are a-hoppin' at New Era Cap, and that's the end of page 2. Now, page 3 is one of the regular features, and I'm going to read you about the Power People feature and what it actually does. Buffalo Business First publishes 3 annual Power Lists: the Power 250, the Power 200 Women, and Power 100 Business Leaders of Color, featuring the top business leaders in Western New York. Each week we will tell you more about an executive on those lists. And this week, it's Kayla Zemsky, CEO, Larkin Development Group. Now, there'll be topics of discussion, questions supplied by Jacob Tierney. And, of course, the answers will be supplied by Kayla Zemsky. Now, in the Power 250 rank, she's at 216. In the Power 200 Women rank, she's at 183. Okay, and there's a picture of her seated rather comfortably down there at the Larkin Square, Larkin Development, certainly down there, with a smile on her face in good weather in one of their beautiful antique lawn chairs. While most developers cast a broad net, taking on projects across the region or even across the country, Larkin Development Group keeps its focus on about 3 blocks in Buffalo. CEO Kayla Zemsky doesn't see that changing anytime too soon, and she says, it feels like we've still got so much work to do, close quote. Zemsky took over as CEO in 2025 from her father, Howard, who remains chairman of the company. Kayla's husband, Michael Myers, is company president and chief operating officer. The company is solely focused on the Larkin district. Kayla said that concentration of effort has a compounding effect. Improvements and amenities at one property make the neighboring properties more appealing. The neighborhood has come a long way over the decades, and it continues to attract both business and residents. Local manufacturer Oxford Pennant will be moving soon to 775 Seneca Street, formerly home to Custom Canvas Manufacturing. Kayla said she and her team look to attract tenants that will elevate the neighborhood as a whole. And she adds, and I quote, "We're continuing to take a look at what gaps might exist in our neighborhood that people might want to see where they live and work," she said. For example, Buff and Flow Fitness Studio will open soon in the Millrace Commons building. Zemsky was born and raised in Buffalo. She went to college in Maine and then moved to New York City, where she attended grad school and worked for several museums. After about 8 years, she moved back home to join the family business. The company owns several undeveloped or underdeveloped parcels in Larkinville, enough to keep it busy for a long time. And here's another quote from Mrs. Zemke. We're lucky as a family business we can have more of a long-term I'll read the whole thing again. We're lucky as a family business we can have more of a long-term outlook on the projects that we take on. Okay. Now, the first area of discussion, what's something you look for when hiring? And Kayla says, we're looking for some intrinsic motivation and pride in doing a job well. What's something that people do not know? She says, I'm a really big reader. I read close to 100 books a year. What's your biggest goal for the next 12 months? Well, as a working mother, I end up switching goals many times in a day, so I guess my personal goal is to be really present in the role that I am in at the moment. What was your first job? And Kayla says, camp counselor. How do you describe yourself as a boss? Well, I try to lead with kindness and understanding that my teams have full lives happening around them, but also with high expectations that we are performing well for our customers. With the magic wand, what would you change about working in Buffalo? And she said, I would love to see more people of my generation, especially people who found success elsewhere, bring those ideas and talents to Buffalo. What do you keep in mind when dealing with clients? And she says, we are a hospitality-first company. Listening and really caring what somebody has to say really goes a long way. What was the most pivotal moment of your life? And she says, becoming a parent. If you had to pick a different career, what would it be? Well, I might still be in the art world, or, like I said, I'm a big reader, so maybe publishing. What's your favorite thing to do in Buffalo? And Kayla says, I think just to be outside with my kids. We had a really great time just being outside this winter, skiing, and embracing the 4 seasons. And finally, Justin Tierney asks, Kayla, what advice do you have for your 25-year-old self? And she says, enjoy this time. It was a really unique time in my life in New York, so just take it in and enjoy it. Okay, well, that's the end of Power People this week's Power Person was Kayla Zemke from the Larkin Development Group, and that's the end of page 3. Okay, next we have on page 4, Economic Development. And there's 1, 2, 3 articles and one, what I call, a mystery item. Big number. $20.8 million. Big number. Let's see now. It's not the cost to repair my car. It's getting there. It's not my tailor charging to expand my waist on my pants. So what could it? $20.8 million, big number. The amount for which Premier Place New York LP purchased the Premier Place in Williamsville from an affiliate of DLC Management Corp. This marks the major real estate company's exit from the Buffalo market. Okay. $20.8 million. Okay, now the first full article is about, Jacob Tierney writes about Canalside. Work starts soon on a $190 million project. After years of planning, construction is set to start soon on the North Odd Block project, which will bring 251 affordable apartment units and commercial space to Canalside. Will Diavella, Director of Development for Brooklyn-based Penrose Development, said financing for the project will be finalized in the coming weeks and work will start soon after. Haynes Construction of Connecticut is the general contractor and has started soliciting bids from subcontractors. The project will cost at least $189.9 million. It consists of 3 buildings, a 12-story, 263 263,987 square foot structure with 199 apartments and retail space. A 6-story, 75,540 square foot building with 52 apartments and retail space, and a single-story, 1,419 square foot auxiliary building. Labella Associates and landscape designer Marvel are doing design work for the project. So Penrose has also been working with the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority on the $200 million redevelopment of Perry Homes, which is nearing completion. And that's probably, I would say, within a mile from this development. The state-run Erie County Harbor Development Corps owns the North and Block site at Canalside, so named because it once housed part of a Memorial Auditorium, which was demolished in 2009. So big plans for that area, Canalside. Okay, now there's a picture here for the second full article, an archive photo of the former Cadet Cleaners building at 169 West Utica Street. And it's a self-storage place at the time this picture was taken. So now let's see what Jacob Tierney writes about this. Cadet Cleaners conversion axed. But before I read about what's been axed, that's even hard to say. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from Buffalo Business First, right here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Okay, Sinatra and Company Real Estate is no longer planning an apartment conversion project at the former Cadet Cleaners building in the Elmwood Village. Developer Nick Sinatra has proposed several variations of the project since buying the 29,000 square foot building at 169 West Utica for $900,000 in 2016. The most recent iteration would have been the existing building being renovated into 19 apartment units. However, Sinatra says the high interest rates and construction costs that have plagued developers since COVID-19 pandemic mean the project doesn't pencil out. And he says, and a quote, "It's just part of the capital market situation we're in. The numbers just don't work there." Close quote. Sinatra has listed the 1-acre property for sale. Tyler Ballantyne, Richard Ledyard, and Richard Scheckreier of Cashman and Wakefield Pyramid Brokerage Company are the listing agents. Sinatra also criticized Mayor Sean Ryan's proposed 25% property tax hike, though he said the other financial hurdles were the primary reasons why he's not moving forward with the project. And he adds, "I can't raise rents 25%. The market just won't bear it, so the deals just don't get done." Sinatra said he's hopeful another developer will be able to make the property work. And he says, here's a quote, "Maybe somebody else has a better use for it. Maybe someone can take it and convert Cadet Cleaners into medical officers, or maybe there's a user who can do a conversion cheaper than we can do a conversion." Close quote. Another planned Sinatra and Company project is on hold, though it is still on the company's docket. The team plans to convert the upper floors of the Market Arcade building at 617 Main Street into 53 apartments at an estimated cost of $12 million. Sinatra said he's waiting for the financing situation to impose. I'll read that again. Sinatra said he's waiting for the financing situation to improve before moving forward with the Market Arcade project. And he says, "We still want to do the project." Okay, so Cadet Cleaners conversion was axed by Nick Sinatra and Company. And now we go to the third full article on economic development, and this says Amherst. Townhomes proposed at site of scrapped student housing. Simonelli Real Estate is planning to build 160 townhome units on an Amherst parcel once slated for a massive student housing project. The 17-acre parcel is part of the larger Moyer Woods development site. Simonelli Real Estate once owned the entire site but sold it off piecemeal to various developers, including the land where it now plans to build townhomes. Texas-based student housing developer Aspen Heights bought 42 acres at Moyer Woods from Simonelli Real Estate for $8.5 million in 2022. The developer built 197 student apartments, a clubhouse and a pool, opening the site in 2023. That was the planned first phase of proposed $83.3 million development, which received a $9.2 million tax break from the Amherst Industrial Development Agency. Aspen Heights has since scrapped plans for the second phase, which would have added another 295 units and a second clubhouse and pool. The company listed the parcel for sale in 2025. Simonelli's proposal, dubbed Townhomes at Muir Woods, calls for 4 private roads and 34 and 6-unit buildings. It would require redirecting an existing bike path on the site. Town planning officials are reviewing this proposal. In 2025, Cincinnati-based Fifth Third Bank sued 2 companies and 3 executives affiliated with Aspen Heights, alleging the companies borrowed more than $2 million in 2022 in a mortgage tied to a 770 John James Audubon and never repaid the debt. The case is still pending. Oh my. Okay, so that's it for page 4. And now we go to Startups and Technology. Josh Gully. Let's see, he has 1 full article and 1 mystery number. And this says big number, 40K. 40K. The amount Lasco Rocketry won at the University of Buffalo's Henry A. Panache Jr. Technology Enterprise Entrepreneurship Competition for 2025. The consumer and educational model rocketry company develops certified solid rocket motors, reusable motor hardware, and avionics systems. Wow, okay. Lasco Rocketry. Okay, now Josh Gully also writes about growth. Azuna nears $100 million revenue milestone. Hoo-ha! And there's a picture of Azuna CEO Scott Dancy with quite a satisfied grin on his face. Odor eliminating company has grown rapidly since 2019. When a washing machine starts to stink, most people repair and move on. Not Scott Dancy. And here's a quote. The pungent smell led him, close quote, to launch Azuna, an odor-eliminating company expected to surpass $100 million in revenue this year. Azuna, which sells tea tree gels, sprays, and wipes, has seen rapid growth since it was founded in 2019. CEO Dancy said the company has about 150,000 orders and nearly $10 million in sales each month. Revenue tripled from 2024 to 2025, he said, and it's forecast to double again this year and reach the $100 million mark. And here's a quote from Mr. Dancy. Scott says, "It's been a really cool Buffalo success story, and we're just continuing to grow and grow and grow." Close quote. In the last 9 months, Azuna has gone from 10 employees to 50, all but 7 of whom work from the company's Seneca One headquarters in downtown Buffalo. Azuna manufactures in a Lackawanna facility and uses a third-party logistics shipping facility in Cheektowaga. Now, Scott Dancy says, Azuna is working to establish redundancy in both filling and shipping in the Midwest and on the West Coast over the next 12 months. This comes as Azuna enters the retail market, having landed on shelves in all 75 Midwestern locations of Fresh Time Market, an organic food supermarket chain based in Illinois, And Dancy says, quote, "Fresh Time is a perfect place for us to be a first one because it's big, but not so big that we can't handle it at this point." And he added, "We wouldn't be able to go into Target or anything like that right now." Close quote. Previously, sales were all online, although Azuna's website, Amazon, and Shopify. I'm sorry. I'll read it again. I'm getting ahead of myself today. Previously, sales were all online through Azuna's website, Amazon, and Shopify. Azuna has also found success in the subscription model, Dancy said, with over 75% of new customers becoming subscribers. Azuna's success has led to regular inquiries from prospective buyers, and Dancy says in closing, "We'll see what happens over the next couple of years. But that is part of the plan," he said. So, okay, startups and technology, my gosh. Rocketry and getting rid of, if you're part of the expression, of stinky washing machine smell. Okay, so that's the end of page 5. And now on page 6, we have Tracy Drury, and she has 2 full articles and a mystery number under the heading of Nonprofits and Foundations. Okay, let's look at the first article. It says Merger, Endeavor Health Restoration Unit Society to Unite. Okay, a new affiliation brings together Endeavor Health Services and Restoration Society Incorporated, with a merger expected later this year. The affiliation created a behavioral health organization with 310 staff and $26 million in revenue, with the goal of strengthening long-term sustainability while enhancing services and access to care. Now, Elizabeth Morrow, President and CEO of Endeavor, says, "We're consolidating, paring it down to what they do really well," and she adds, "The programs are complementary for the most part." Close quote. Between them, the agencies have more than 25 service sites, with 2 properties up for sale and another site expected to be listed soon, she says. Endeavor is also working to replace its East Side facility with a new $7.5 million building. Both boards of directors, which have already begun overlapping, have approved the affiliation, making Endeavor the sole corporate member of RSI. RSI will continue operating its own programs as a separate entity, while benefiting from administrative and governance support from Endeavor. Okay, so thank you, Tracy Drury. And so we've learned about this consolidation. Now, mystery number. Again, we have a mystery number. 675K. Okay, what's costing 675K? I'm sorry, I'm at a loss. The amount for which Avi Israel is suing Save the Michaels of the World, the nonprofit he and his wife founded. He says he's owed $300,000 for funds he loaned the agency and $375,000 tied to an employment contract. Wow. Okay, so that is a big number. So we're looking at almost, well, just shy of $750,000. Okay, so let's see what else we have here from Tracy. We have an article that fills up the rest of the page. My gosh, concerning the Weinberg campus. Excuse me. And there's a picture here of the roadway leading into the parking area with the very nice yellowish sign, Weinberg campus. And it says, the caption of the picture says, 3 of the Weinberg campus 4 outstanding bankruptcies cases were recently dismissed. And then there's a subheading right here, Judge clears way for foreclosure proceedings on nonprofits' properties. Okay. There's also a large quote here. It says, now this is the attorney, Kevin Lelanek, of Gross Schumann, who is representing the Weinberg campus, and his quote says, "I don't know what the state of the books and records are. I don't know where things are kept other than in Mr. Robert Mayer's head." Okay. Now let's get to the article. Weinberg campus CEO Robert Mayer continues to draw a $5,000 weekly salary more than a year after the Senior Services campus shut down nearly all of its programs and left hundreds without jobs. That's despite alleged gross mismanagement in recent months at facilities on North Forest Road and John James Audubon Parkway in Gettsville, where trespassers and squatters have been found, and non-pay of property taxes and workers' compensation insurance. Those were among the issues reviewed during an April 13th hearing in which U.S. Bankruptcy Court Western District Judge Carl Buckeye called the situation, in quotes, intolerable. Buckeye dismissed 3 of Weinberg's 4 outstanding Chapter 11 bankruptcy cases, and he said, "It's an intolerable situation with risk and dangers to secured creditors, risk and dangers to the public, and serious concerns about management." Close quote. Mayer did not respond to requests for comment. The U.S. trustee has filed a motion to dismiss all 4 bankruptcy filings by Weinberg Campus affiliates, Menorah Campus Incorporated, Menorah Campus Independent Senior Apartments, Menorah Campus Adult Home, and Rosa Copeland Living Center. Joseph Allen is an assistant U.S. trustee for the Office of the U.S. Trustee, the U.S. Department of Justice's division that oversees bankruptcy cases. He reviewed a half dozen areas that were grounds for dismissal of the Chapter 11 cases, including failures by Mayer to file monthly reports, pay quarterly fees on property taxes, or property taxes as well, and to maintain general liability of workers' compensation insurance. Buckeye allowed the continuation of the bankruptcy case at Rosa Copeland, the only unit that appears to have unrestricted cash. The decision followed a hearing in late March where attorneys for Weinberg Campus scrapped a plan to auction a 37-acre parcel at 2700 North Forest Road after objections from BP Gettsville Campus LLC, which holds a $22 million secured claim and first priority mortgage on the property. The dismissal allows for the resumption of foreclosure cases by both BP Gettsville and the Foundation for Jewish Philanthropists. The latter filed a foreclosure in February for the Stovroff Towers property at 471 John James Audubon Parkway, and has a $5.7 million claim stemming from a 2016 loan. David Ferguson, an attorney at Poisonelli in Kansas City, who represents BP Gettsville, told the court he expects the state Supreme Court to grant quick approvals on the foreclosure. This won't leave much for other creditors that have filed a collective $55 million in claims. Those creditors include former executives, CPA firms in Rochester and California, and Gross Schumann PC, the law firm continuing to represent Weinberg. How much money remains in the Rosa Copeland account was questioned during the hearing. Ryan Barber, an attorney with Levi Ratner PC, representing 250 union employees from 1199 SEIU, said the last monthly report filed in November mentioned about $500,000. If that's the account from which Mayer is paying himself $5,000 each week and covering other expenses, there might not be much left for the creditors. And finally, Kevin Lalonik, an attorney with Gross Schumann, confirmed that mayor and one other person remain on staff. He said he is not sure how the remaining Rosa Copeland funds will be spent due to post-petition tax liabilities and other penalties. Oh my gosh. So that ends the Nonprofits and Foundations Tracy Drury's page, and I'm pleased as punch to be telling you, first of all, you're listening to a reading of articles and features from Buffalo Business First right here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. But now, my favorite feature in Buffalo Business First, I know it's strange, but for some reason I just kind of like this. The list. And this one is compiled by Todd Keogh. The fastest growing banks ranked by year-over-year change in deposits, quarter 4, 2024 to 2025. Oh my. So this is going to get intricate fast. Okay. So they're ranked by the year-over-year change in deposits. And it goes from quarter 4, 2024 to 2025. Okay. So let's see now. There's listed 22. I'm also looking to see if we have any ties here. I don't see any ties because sometimes there is a tie. So let's get into this. Fastest growing banks. Okay, in first place, we have J.P. Morgan Chase, and they're headquartered on Corporate Parkway in Amherst. And the year-over-year change was $180.84 billion, and they had a 7.18% rise between the year-over-year change. They have net loans of $1.47 trillion and Western New York deposits of $264.4 million. And Robert McGardle is their top local executive. Second place, we have Bank of America, Fountain Plaza, downtown Buffalo. They had a year-over-year change of $46.5 billion, and their change percentage was 2.26%. Net loans of $1.17 trillion, and Western New York deposits $3.23 billion, and Ted Janicki is the top local executive. Third place, we have Citizens Bank, Airborne Parkway in Cheektowaga. Year-over-year change is $8.28 billion. Their year-over-year change, percentage-wise, was 4.65%. They have $142.17 billion in net loans, and they have $2.42 billion in Western New York deposits. And J. Theodore Smith is their chief local executive. Number 4, we have M&T Bank, of course, M&T Plaza, downtown Buffalo. Their year-over-year change was $6.08 billion, and that's a 3.68% increase. For the net loans, they have $136.67 billion, and Western New York deposits to $38.31 billion, and Renee Jones is their top local executive. Fifth place, we have Northwest Bank on S.J. Road in Williamsville. Year-over-year change is $1.71 billion, so they had an increase, year-over-year change, of 13.76%. Okay, thus far that's the biggest change percentage-wise, certainly not money-wise. Net loans, they have $12.88 billion. And Western New York deposits, they have $2.81 billion. Jennifer Gibson, top local executive in that Northwest Bank. Number 6, we have CNB Bank, and they're located in Clearfield, Pennsylvania. Year-over-year change, $1.66 billion, and they had a 10.28, it's 30.28% year-over-year change. Wow. Net loans, $6.42 billion, Western New York Deposits, 1.3 billion, and Michael Noah is their top local executive. Seventh place, we have Community Bank NA, and they're on Corporate Parkway in Amherst. $901.14 million year change, and their change percentage-wise is 6.6%. Net loans, 10.86 billion, and the Western New York Deposits, 2.24 billion. And Christopher Humphrey is their top local executive. Eighth place, we have Tompkins Community Bank, Hopkins Road in Amherst. $623.28 million year-over-year change, and that is a 9.57% change. Okay, net loans, 6.43 billion. Western New York Deposits, 1.3 billion, and their top local executive is Diane, not Dwayne, Diane Torcello. Ninth place, we have NBT Bank, and they're located on Main in Williamsville. 367.67 million change, and that's a 25.46% increase. So net loans, 11.46 billion. Western New York Deposits, 1.81 billion, and Kenneth Pollock is their top local executive. Number 10, we have Woodforest National Bank on Bennett Road in Fredonia. 338.83 million year-over-year change, and that's an increase of 4.18%. For their net loans, they have $6.05 billion, and Western New York Deposits, $20.75 million, and their top local executive, no name was provided. Okay, number 11, we have Five Star Bank on Sheridan and Amherst. $134.42 million increase. And let's see now. They had a 2.61% increase. And let's see. Net loans, $4.61 billion. Western New York Deposits, $2.69 billion. And Martin Birmingham is their top local executive. In 12th place, we have Hamlin Bank and Trust out of Olean, 40.5 million year change, and that's a 12.2% increase. And their net loans are $300.33 million, and their Western New York deposits are $17.75 million. And David Yoder is their top local executive. 13th place, we have Alden State Bank on Broadway, of course, in Alden, 23.83 million change, and they had a 6.74% change. Okay, net loans, $296.87 million, and Western New York deposits, $373.73 million. And Stephen Woodard is their top local executive. 14th place, we have Lakeshore Savings Bank, and they're, of course, on 4th Street in Dunkirk, and they had an $18.6 million change, and they had it was a change of 3.22%. Their top net loans are $555.45 million, and their deposits are $630.82 million. And Kim Liddell is their top local executive. Then we have Cattaraugus County Bank in 15th place. They're at 120 Main in Little Valley. They had a change of $17.13 million, and their year-over-year change is 5.49%. Okay. The net loans are $223.75 million. The deposits $320.22 million, and Michael Whitmer is the top local executive. Okay, 16th, we have Bank of Holland, Main Street in Holland, $11.32 million change. And then they had a 5.41% change. The net loans, $182.52 million. Western New York deposits, $224.03 million. Timothy Dickey is their top local executive. 17th place, we have Bank of Cattaraugus, 24 Main in Cattaraugus, 1.04 million change, and their percentage was 4.56 year-over-year change. And let's see now, they had for net loans 16.77 million, and deposits they had 25.53 million. And Colleen Young is their top local executive. 18th place, we have First Citizens Community Bank, Maine and Wellsville. They had a $3.95 million change, and that was a, let's see, a 0.17% decrease. 2.34 billion in investments, not loans I should say, and deposits they had 41.46 million. And L. Abby Pritchard is their top local executive. Now we're in the 20s with HSBC Bank USA on Washington in the city. They had a decrease of 115.3 million, and that's a 0.08% change. 53.95 is their net loans, and 3.58, both in the billions, for Western New York deposits. And Gregory Duval is a top local executive. Canal Street, a division of Chemung Canal Trust Company on Main and Williamsville, they had a decrease of 121.42 million, which was a change of 5.6%. And the net loans is 2.25 billion. And their deposits are 36.91 million. Vincent Catrona is their top local executive. And then finally, KeyBank is in 22nd place, headquartered on Exchange Street. They had a change of minus 1.33 billion, and that's a minus 0.86%. They have 106.39 billion in net loans and an 8.28 billion Western New York deposit. Mike McMahon is their top local executive. So my oh my, totally amazing. The fastest growing banks ranked by year-over-year change. So okay, that's the end of page 7. Again, that wasn't Hassan Green who used to have this feature, or maybe he still does. Maybe they share it. But I did want to read the caveat that they have here. Information on this list was obtained from the National Credit Union Administration. Okay. So that was page 7, and now we go to the cover feature, which was, they label it here, Life in the Haze, Haze. Okay, now this is by Andy Medici, and it says, Life in the Haze, tariff turmoil, shifting expectations, and economic worries are clouding decision-making processes for small businesses. Abby Perry's decision to help her daughter build a small terrarium at home during the pandemic unexpectedly grew into a small business in downtown Zionsville in Indiana. Abby's garden parties started as a side hustle for children's birthday parties and activities, a chance to swap screen time for green time, Perry said in an interview. Kids could fill a glass enclosure with soil, rocks, shells, small plants, and keepsakes for a fun display item to keep at their own homes. That grew into corporate team building exercises and more requests until Perry opened up a storefront. This physical location meant that customers could walk in, pick the size and type of terrarium they want, and spend time perfecting it before walking out with their creation. Then came the tariffs, just one of the many factors that has ramped uncertainty for small businesses over the past year. From shifting interest rate expectations and recession fears to recent upheaval stemming from the conflict in Iran, experts say decision-making for businesses has been extremely difficult. For Perry, the many twists and turns of tariffs have been a significant challenge. The glass containers Perry used were made in China. After the Trump administration last spring rolled out steep tariffs as part of its Liberation Day initiative, the price of a typical plain glass container jumped from about $5 to $10. Her attempts to locate an American-based supplier came up empty, as those American companies also sourced their glass containers from overseas and thus ended up raising their own prices. Perry ended up absorbing some of the cost increase and passing some on to the customer. She also would let customers bring in their own containers, but it wasn't just the tariffs announced in April 2025 that impacted Perry. It was the subsequent adjustments that were made to tariff policies that affected her decision-making. And Abby Perry says, and here's a quote, "I got hit with these tariffs that are killing me and making it really unpredictable for me to run my business. I can't forecast it at all because these tariffs have been all over the place," Perry says. Close quote. She does her best to find large number of containers sold at a discount either to glass company liquidation or some type of a closure in order to save money. But the business, which is herself and a pair of part-time employees, can't afford to spend excess time and resources trying to find relatively small number of glass containers. And she says, and here's a quote, "I am one gal. I have a college degree, but I'm not an MBA. I don't have a buying department. The uncertainty of the tariffs keeps me up at night. It literally does." Close quote. Small businesses across America have felt the squeeze for nearly a year since the implementation of the Trump administration's tariff policies and the added uncertainty that has come with changes to those tariffs. That includes February's Supreme Court ruling that the sweeping tariffs as implemented were illegal, creating new questions of potential refunds as well as next steps on tariffs from the administration. Exclusive research by the business journals found that 33% of small business owners surveyed said they faced, in quotes, significantly or, quote, moderately increased business costs due to tariffs over the last year, while 27% say they faced slightly higher costs. Now here's a quote from Michael Baines, co-founder and CEO of Clarify Capital. And he says, "In the past few years, small business owners have gone from growing their business to survival mode. They are looking at expenses more closely, waiting longer to replace equipment, and renegotiating contracts. The emphasis is on preserving cash flow and stability." John Lear, chief economist for Morning Consult, said a host of factors, including Iran and the threat of artificial intelligence, are weighing on consumer sentiments and expectations. That breeds more uncertainty for businesses about their own prospects. And Lear adds this quote, There was a 1-2 punch in late December and early January, driven primarily by high-income adults who increasingly felt like they were at risk of being automated out of jobs, Lear says. So now here's another quote. Abby Perry, founder of Abby's Garden Parties. This is headline just under the picture of her. "I got hit with these tariffs that are killing me and making it really unpredictable for me to run my business. And now I can't forecast it at all." Okay. I just have time for one more graph here. Percentage of small businesses reporting financial challenges over the past 12 months. 2017, 64%. 2018, 63. 2019, 66%. 2020, 81%. 2021, 85%. 2022, 94%. 2023, 93%. 2024, 94%. 2025, 94%. So literally the number of people, it's gone up by 1/3 that are making these claims that these are financially challenging for them in the past 12 months. Well, that's my time that I have allotted here. And the name of the article is Life in the Haze, and that's Andy Medici, and it's the featured story in this week's edition of Buffalo Business First. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the May 1st through May 7th issue of Buffalo Business First. We read from Buffalo Business First every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Your reader has been Fran McNamara, and I thank you so very much for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have Time Magazine. At 8 o'clock, we have the New York Times. And at 9 o'clock, a new program, we have some comic books. Thanks to our friends at Comicstorian on YouTube. This week, we start the Devil's Reign crossover event from Marvel Comics. And then we have issue number 1 of Batman. Stay with us for these readings and more. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability,